Welcome to the About podcast. Here we explore your financial health in simple and easy to understand ways.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the About podcast. Here we talk all about your financial health, and today we're going to talk about an important component of that, your relationship. In particular, your relationship with your financial advisor.
Yes, that's very important.
It's very important. And coincidentally, Roy, you are a financial advisor.
I am.
I know. And you and I have this relationship because you're my financial advisor.
That's right.
All right.
I hope it's one you like.
Well, I'm here.
So far, so good?
So far, so good.
All right.
So Roy, we really want to talk about, why would somebody, we've talked about this before on this podcast too, but I mean, why would somebody use a financial advisor, an actual human being? I mean, can I just go online and get an app or something to do all this for me?
That's right. That's a really good question because a lot of times today, that's a question we get is how is technology affecting what it is that you do, Roy, right, for your job, and how does that affect me as a client? As well as clients that are, not my client out there that exists. And they're like, well, why would I come work with someone like you?
Right.
What's the point? I can just use my new AI tool that will tell me what to do. It'll tell me how to buy a house and decorate it. And I can drop the contract and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Which is great and really good until it's not.
Right.
And so, part of this stems from a little bit, AI is the buzz everywhere, right? And we have an episode on AI, which everyone should check out as well. Because I think the premise and the principles that we taught on that actually really do need to be followed. Yeah. AI is not trustworthy, and you have to confirm everything. And there's things called hallucinations, and they're very prevalent in almost every one of them to some degree. And you have to confirm things, right? So I was actually at a conference last week, and I think this is important to share with everybody that the question is, are you, as a financial advisor, meaning me, going to get replaced?
Oh,
right. And the end point that we came to was that there are certain things within my industry that are going to get replaced.
Sure.
But the ultimate, the holy grail, is the advisor's position is not going to get replaced. Why not? Because relationships matter.
There's a certain point in which human beings interacting with other human beings is the way we want to do things.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you can still, ATMs are great, but sometimes you need to talk to a person.
That's right.
So they're still bank tellers.
Right. So can you create efficiencies in your business? Yes. Right.
Sure.
Do those efficiencies need to be for the public necessarily? Example. And I thought this was very curious. So there was a presentation where a guy said, hey, financial advisor, you can take all of your content, your videos, your writings, your blogs, anything you've put into the ether that can be taken and plugged into your AI agent, right? And then it will create an AI agent of you. Oh. So a client, you call me, Jeremy, and you have a question about Bitcoin, whatever. I'm not available. And the agent will say, well, hey, I can help you with that. And it will explain my viewpoint on Bitcoin from all of the different things that I've put out there about it, right?
Right.
Now, is that necessarily going to be a holistic and complete Bitcoin analysis? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, would you want to do that and listen to some AI agent that's not me when you called to talk to me?
Well, I honestly, for me, because I like technology. I mean, for those of you who don't know, my undergraduate was in computer science. I was a software engineer for 15 years before I became a pastor. So I'm actually quite enamored with all these new tools. And there are times when, if it's a simple technical question or something like that, I would be fine with that, if it's just like, yes. And if I wouldn't want to take up your actual time with it, sure. But it wouldn't be all circumstances. And if something was really important to me, then no, I want to talk to Roy, not Digital Roy.
But if you could say, hey, Digital Roy, can you help me read my statement? Okay, maybe.
Sure.
But you don't necessarily want to call and talk to it per se. Like you could also just click on the video that's like, this is how you read a statement, right? Kind of thing. Yeah. So you kind of have different ways you can approach it. But I just thought that was ridiculous because I'm like, I just can't imagine myself wanting to call a professional that I work with and talk to an AI version of them.
Right.
I don't trust AI so fully, right? I don't trust it fully. So
Sure.
it's like, could I and would I even trust what it's telling me?
Right.
And the answer is, I don't think so. So now that's for me. Now, some people might be able to leverage it. However, let's say that you're doing more of an analysis of something, right? So I help people with investing. Okay. Well, let's say I have two investments that I want to look at and compare, and they're relatively similar. How do I break them down? Well, I go pull up both of them and I read through the data about them, and I kind of make an analysis, right? Well, can an AI agent do that for me like in 2 seconds and give me a side-by-side comparison? Yes, I just sped up my work behind the scenes.
Right.
That's a great leverage of AI, right? There was one instance of AI that I thought was pretty interesting that could potentially help. Like if you have an unknown number call your office, then the AI agent will answer.
Oh,
Because we get a lot of spam, and
everybody
gets
does,
spam,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So if it's a spam call, the AI agent will just flush it and get rid of the call. It didn't bother you, interrupt your work. If you're a client and the number's in the system, it always rings through.
Oh, okay.
Right. But if they find it's like, oh, it's somebody who's calling in because they were referred to you, right? Then they'll transfer it to the appropriate person.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of an interesting way of using AI.
Well, I think efficiency. I mean, I think that's where we're going to see it. I mean, even in my industry, in church work, like that's where it's being, nobody's talking about it. I mean, there's a little bit of like, this is going to replace clergy. And I'm like, probably it's as hard to replace me in my physical role as it is to replace you in your physical role, because there's certain things that just need to be dealt with by a human being. Can it make my life more efficient? Absolutely. And it does all the time.
Yep.
So I do appreciate it for that.
Another example that was given was a person was renting like an Airbnb or something, right? And they had an issue with their Wi-Fi, and they called the number, and it was an AI agent that answered. And it said, "Oh, I'm really sorry you have this problem. We really care about what's going on, and we're going to get to the bottom of this as quickly as possible. I want you to feel comfortable that we're going to deal with this." And it went nowhere, right? So it was an AI agent. It created empathy. It made that person feel good in the moment.
Sure.
And then a day later, when nothing occurred, they call back. "Oh, really sorry this is still happening. Well, we're really going to work hard through." Anyway, the point is, it was just empathy, but no action.
Right.
So sometimes you just want action.
Right.
So that's a use where it's like, man, that really was not a good experience, and I don't really want that if I have a problem.
Right.
They had Wi-Fi they needed. They were actually working from the road, and they actually had to do like a video presentation, and they couldn't do it right. Like there was really level 10 stress here. And they're like, I just need to talk to somebody, and get this solved. So that's another unique situation where like AI can be great, but it can also be really bad.
Right. So I imagine how this question tends to come up is, I mean, to work with somebody who's kind of what I would kind of call like a full service financial planner, the way that you are, there's a fee that comes with that. And so my guess is that's where the conversation starts with some people is like, well, are there cheaper ways of, investing my money in terms of like fees? Maybe. But so what is the value that working with somebody like you, Roy, brings to the table? And I say that as somebody who's experienced the value that I know you bring to the table. But how do you respond to that when people ask that question? Because I'm sure you get it.
It's a great question, but it's subjective.
Sure.
So do you see value in what you're receiving for the cost that you're paying?
Right.
That's what it always comes down to. And if somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm just paying you to be my investment guy. I don't know how many people say, well, that's my investment guy. Right. Not my financial planner, which, I really try to work hard to help people understand I'm a financial planner.
Shout out to the What is a Financial Planner episode.
That's right. Check it out. So the premise there being, what value do I bring to them, and do they find value in that? If I'm just their investment guy and that's how they view me, then I'm not really a great option for them, because they can absolutely invest less expensively somewhere else, because you strip out all the planning piece of it, right? And the person. So can you go use a robo-advisor or something like that exists in the world today before AI? You bet. And it's really low cost. They have really great options out there. If that's what you want, do it. Now, my piece of advice there is, don't screw it up.
Right.
Because the problem isn't that they can do it and do a good job. The problem is you and how you behave in certain situations. Right. So this is a perfect example. I have a client that has a owner 401k. They're managing it themselves. I'm helping them with other money. And there's some crazy stuff going on with Bitcoin, right? Like a month or something ago.
Yeah.
And he's like going into his 401k and like stressing about things and trading things. And And then he's like, what am I doing? He says this to me later. He's like, what am I doing? I just need to get this to you. And I know you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And take care of it. I know you're going to have, a thought behind it and you're not emotional about it. So that's the couple things that you can think through is like, is there value there? Because if you're using your advisor as just an investment guy, there are really less expensive options than having to talk to a person. But there's still value there because if you make mistakes in the wrong times because of uncertainty, because of the Iran situation, right? Because of Bitcoin, because of whatever. We had tariffs last year, right?
Right.
There's always something
Always something
that you can get emotional about and feel like it's going to affect you. And if all I did was be your investment guy and separate you from your emotion, I'm still worth the cost.
Right. Well,
but how do you see that as the client sitting across from me? Because you don't understand that.
Right. Well, how I've come to really appreciate it is that you deal with a lot of stuff for me that I honestly don't want to think about. Right. Like I don't have the time or energy or expertise.
Just like you with me.
To do. Yeah.
This podcast.
There you go.
I didn't know how to do it. You did it.
I did. We did. We did great. No, but I mean, you get to think about these things and you are a professional. And for me, like I get the joy of knowing that my money's being handled well, that, there's a plan that we developed a plan together. You kind of forced me into me and my new wife into conversations that we probably wouldn't have otherwise had.
That was quite fun, by the way.
It was great. And it was
always fun seeing people squirm.
And we had a conversation the other day about, we're thinking about our kids. We got one graduating high school in 3 years and one couple years after that. And what do we want to do? And what do we want to set up for? And she was like, well, don't we have that review with Roy coming up? We should talk to him about it so he knows kind of what we're thinking about and he can make sure we're on the right path. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what Roy is for.
That's right.
Because our, maybe, things have shifted a little bit in our lives or our goals or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, how do we make sure we're on plan for where we want to be? Her first thought now was like, well, we'll talk to Roy about it at our next checkup. I'm like, yeah, we will.
So I think that's exactly like what I want to hear, right?
Okay.
Like, thank you very much, and I'll pay you later. But like, that's really important to me to know that people look at that planning as something that's really important to call when they have that come up in their life. And we talk about it, right? We talk through it. But if you're going to invest your money, always the question I kind of ask people is, how is that money being invested?
Right.
And most people can't actually explain to me how. Why are you putting it in that kind of a risk bucket? They can't usually explain to me why. And what I do is I don't start with investments, as you well know.
I do.
Right? So we've kind of revamped our process a little bit. It used to be always be goals and yada, yada, yada. It's just buzzwords, I think, nowadays. But I really just back it down to, what are your priorities? Let's start there. Financial priorities specifically, let's be clear. So look at someone's financial priorities. Then we take a look at, of all the places you have risk, we've talked about the what ifs on this show many times.
So many
right?
times.
What if you lose your life, health, or job? So what happens then? You've experienced that.
I have.
So we walk through those things. That doesn't have anything to do with investing, does it?
I think it has everything to do with it.
Well, what I mean by that is I'm not talking to you about what you're owning and why you're owning it, right?
Right.
We're just trying to peel back the onion to get back to what's the most important things, where do we allocate dollars? Then we finally get to the investing piece of it, of our ultimate potential long-term goal of retirement or any other short-term goals, right? Like buying that boat or whatever it is, right? So we have different allocations for different purposes. But I've got to strip down to what are those actual things, break them apart, realize how much money we have to put where. And then when it comes to a decision point for some people, because some people don't have enough,
right?
Then it's like, okay, what's most important?
Right.
Talking through that, educating through that, I think is where the value comes from. Had a situation this week. It was interesting because a client has been working with me for, 5 years or so. Awesome client, really, I think, appreciates the planning process, but does have some money still elsewhere. Well, we're talking about doing a Roth conversion. Shout out the Roth conversion episode.
Remarkably fascinating. The Roth conversion
that
episode.
was Jeremy's favorite.
Oh, one of my favorites. Top 10.
So with this situation, though, we're wanting to do Roth conversion, and they have some IRA money that they're looking at doing it with. And then we're like, okay, is it just simple as we'll walk through the details of how it's done, the taxes, we're figuring out how much to do, and I'm helping them with the tax planning part of that. And I don't do tax prep, just tax planning. And then he's like, oh, I also have a non-deductible dollars within that bucket. So for our listeners, what that means is you can put a non-deducted dollar into an IRA. You don't write it off on your taxes. It's dollars you've already paid taxes on. So when you pull them back out, you don't have to pay taxes on those dollars, even though it's in an IRA. It is something that exists. But all the growth on that money was tax deferred, and that has to be pulled out as income in a traditional IRA format. But if you convert those dollars, it's a pro rata conversion. So let's just say, for simplicity, a quarter of the dollars in the account right now are non-deductible.
Okay.
And I want to convert $100,000, whatever it is. Well, that means that $25,000 of that 100 would be part of the non-deductible piece, and the other 75,000 is part of the part that they have to pay taxes on. But one of the nuances here is the IRS does not care where the account is. They look at you globally.
Right.
So, how much money does Jeremy have in an IRA? I don't care if you have 10 IRAs out there and only one of them has non-deductible money in it. Doesn't matter. The whole is what they use to figure out the pro rata amount. So what percent of the whole is non-deducted?
Got it.
Then when you convert, that percent is all you get. So this is we had a plan. We're like, but this is now throws a wrench in there that's huge that I'm like, this is going to affect us for years now. And now we have to walk through that in a different way. Now, if they just done that on their own, not knowing, right? They would have probably just done their taxes. How they do their own taxes as well. They probably would have just thrown the numbers in their taxes and just went about their merry way. But if they got audited, they'd get hammered.
Yeah, they'd be wrong.
So why do I add value?
Right.
Why do I add value? Because you think it's something simple, but then you actually, again, pull back the layers of what's really going on and the whole structure of everything, and there's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem, but it just has to be dealt with properly. That's all.
Because so much of this, it's amazing how quickly even people who probably don't think they're all that sophisticated financially need bespoke solutions for something that they've done. Because I was relaying the story of how I actually started working with you just this morning, and it was because my late wife had like 9 different retirement accounts spread all over crazy places, and we're like, we got to consolidate all this down, and it was a lot of legwork, and you and Becky, your amazing assistant here.
Boss lady Becky, not assistant.
Boss lady
Becky.
Had to do a lot of like manual labor to help us get everything where we needed to get and get it all combined. And now it's all in one simple place. And, that was a goal for us. And then, and honestly, when I can't imagine the mess that it would have been if we hadn't done that, especially after she passed. If I had to clean that up after she very unexpectedly passed away, then, oh my gosh, that would have been even worse. I'm just so glad we got it done. Right. But that just took a lot of effort on your part and Becky's part and our part. And I wouldn't have thought we were really complicated, but it still took, I couldn't have done it on my own.
Yep. It's always interesting when I peel back the layers on that piece too, because what I try and do is, if someone says to me they want to do something a certain way, and I said, okay, that's fine. Let's just talk about how that will actually execute.
Right.
And then I walk them down that path, and they're like, oh, I don't want that at all. Mm-hmm. I didn't think you did. That's why I want to make sure you understood how that works. What do you actually want? Right. Well, this is what I want. Oh, well, that's simple. We can do this, this, and this, and that will get you what you want.
So I think the idea of, relationship, that really is the key of the value that comes with working with somebody like you, is that you're in that, there's an actual relationship there, in the same way that you have a relationship with your primary care doctor, or whatever.
I would think better than the primary.
But that person who's there to care for you, right, and help you in your individual circumstance. I think the other thing people need to understand is, you are very excellent about this. That adopting, it's not your job to tell me what my goals are.
That's right.
It's your job to help me define those and make sure that I'm on a path to get them. And if the goal is a boat, then great. The goal's a boat, right? I think sometimes people feel like they're going to get judged or something when they work with somebody, and they're like, look, man, if the Cayman Island, condo is the goal, great.
I'll help you get there.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't hold people's money hostage by any means, but I have a conversation with people about, hey, what's going on? How can we help you? Because I've got to make sure that if you need money, that I can do it in a way that makes the most sense, right? The market goes up and down. We got to position assets in a way that we can get to those assets if we need them in a shorter term period, et cetera.
Right.
And how does that affect the long term? So it's a conversation that I have to have, but I'm not holding people's money hostage. It's your money, it's your goals, it's your priorities. Whatever you care about is what I care about.
Right.
And I'm going to help educate you around that. You want to do this? Okay, here's what we need to know.
Yep.
Right? I'm not I have my own priorities and goals, right, that I have, but I'm not going to bring that into the relationship with them.
Right.
It's their important, money, their hard-earned money,
right,
and they want to make those decisions, but I think they do expect to be educated.
Yes.
Right? And I think the people that work with someone like me they're looking for that.
Yeah.
So relationships matter. And I think, the product is probably the relationship more than anything else. You're not a number when you work with someone like me.
Right.
Now, is the industry as a whole like that? No, not at all. Right. But, I was just talking with, our process here. It's like, well, we can onboard one person this month. Right. Because we don't have the capacity to do a lot more than that. So we're very selective. We want to make sure that all of our current clients aren't going to be hurt by new clients. Yeah. Right. So it's a very thoughtful process, but the relationship is what we're actually searching for, and is do they value that or not? And some people do, some people don't. And it's like when people come in, they're interviewing me, but I'm also interviewing them to make sure it's a good fit. And are you a saver or a spender is always kind of a thing that gets hidden out there, right? They think are you a saver or an investor? The third type is a spender, but that's pretty clear usually because they don't have a lot of assets and they have a lot of debt typically.
Right.
But a saver or an investor, it can get blurred because they accumulate assets. Right. Yeah. But when you actually talk about risk for a saver, they don't want any risk.
Okay.
Right. For an investor, they're like, give me the risk, baby, because I want to get some return.
We want some return, yeah.
And making sure that people understand there's a difference. And well, just because your neighbor's getting 10% return, they're in the stock market. Right. You're in CDs at the bank and you want that 10%, but you don't want the risk to get the 10%. Right. Right. You didn't understand that neighbor was down, 5% the year prior or whatever. So.
And no judgment on the savers out there.
No, absolutely not. You just got to know what you are.
Right.
And that's why I have important conversations about risk. So, right, we talk about the priorities. We talk about the risk. It's risk need versus risk capacity. Okay. So if I talk to a new client, we go through a kind of a process. You've experienced this, and it helps me understand what your capacity for risk is. But then we attach that asset that we have, the amount of dollars we have towards the goal or the priority that we're focusing on at that point in time. Does the risk that you're willing to take match what you need to take?
Okay.
And sometimes it doesn't for people. So then I have to do an education process around that, through that analysis, and then help them understand what that means and to see if they're really willing to take the risk they need to take to get to their goal, or do we need to adjust the goal?
Right.
Like, oh, I don't want to see my money fluctuate up and down like that. I'm not willing to do that.
Right.
It's so more of a saver mentality.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Versus an investor mentality. Yeah. So just walking through it, educating, making sure that it's realistic. And after that, we start looking at, their estate plan. Yep. We start looking, we've already looked at the what ifs, right? Which really the what ifs cover, what if I lose my job? That's my emergency reserves. What if I lose my health? That's your health insurance and your disability insurance, long-term care insurance. What if I lose my life? That's really life insurance. Right. Those are conversations about those things to understand the worst case scenario happens to you. Are we okay? Right. Is our household okay? Right. If we don't have that covered, what does anything else matter?
Right. And there's such comfort in feeling like, okay, I feel like, yes, we've got all those bases covered, because the last thing you want to have to deal with when something like that happens is, dealing with the crisis that in and of itself is enough without having to worry about like, oh, by the way, how am I going to pay my mortgage?
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, knowing that you're like, okay, we have some runway.
That's right.
No matter what, we've got it, and that's good. I think people, I know that I have valued feeling like I have made informed choices around, my financial life and my financial planning, and that, now I have a trusted person who's executing those things for me.
Well, I think that trust is part of that relationship that's so important. And you're an intelligent person, Jeremy. You're not going to just blindly follow somebody, right? Just because they tell you. You're going to analyze it. I know you probably thought through it in depth and probably used a little bit of, the Google to look at some things, right?
I like the Google.
So for you to say something like that, that's important because it's about making an informed decision and an educated decision. And me being a former teacher, I really appreciate the teaching aspect and educating aspect. I'm not a salesman, even though this is a sales job, right? Technically by industry standards, but it's an educational experience that you're going to have with someone like me that's a planner focus, right? And that's why that is so important to listen to that. What is a financial advisor versus a financial planner?
There you go. That's a great episode.
So then from there, though, we kind of get that risks figured out. We've covered the what ifs, and then it's like, okay, what dollars do we have, right? So example, recently had a nice young lady, unfortunately lost her father, had an inheritance coming, and one of the things really wants to buy a home. Okay, so does it make sense to use the inheritance that's coming in a trust format? I won't get into the weeds on that, but it's coming in a protected format through a trust, and could use those dollars to buy a home, balancing that with some other needs that her household has, maybe some saving for children, things like that. What makes the most sense? How should we do that? Should we carve off a little bit of that trust money for the kids now? Should we buy all of the house with the trust money? How should we do that, right? Yeah. So we just talk through it. And what are our goals on the type of home we want? What's the amount of money we have? How does that actually work? How does the trust function? How do taxes work? And educating that person about all of this stuff, right? And then ultimately, they're probably going to take that money and they're going to buy a home, which is going to be really awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I worked with this person's father for years.
Oh.
And had a really good relationship with him, and he was very passionate about protecting his children. And so I'm going to help that child, and I don't get paid to do any of that, right? So I'm not in sales. I'm in educating. I'm going to educate her to make the best decision for her and her household. And do we balance the kiddo? We talked about that, right? So I want to do a house. I want to save for my child, let's say. Okay, so I can put this into a home, this trust money, and then I'll do saving for my child through cash flow from my job because I don't have a mortgage now.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I think I want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the conversation you have to educate them. And that's what I'm talking about, the education aspect of it. Like, how would they know how to make that decision if you couldn't kind of talk through that? How does it work? How's the taxation work? How's the cash flow work? How's the budget work?
And because you've seen so many different scenarios. I mean, that's what you're paying for. I mean, part of the fee is as is usually the case in things like this, you're paying for expertise.
That's right.
Right. You're paying for an expertise that you have that I don't, and most, lay people out there, don't have. And that way our job is somewhat similar.
But you have AI, Jeremy.
But even still, that's still not quite the same.
It's not quite the same.
And again, I mean, I'll just, for me, I mean, I know I've benefited from it tremendously, and I know you helped us think through some strategies that we would not have thought of about kind of protecting around some of those what ifs, kind of things, and involved, purchasing some life insurance that maybe we weren't thinking about and using that in a different way.
Did I sell you to buy that, by the way?
No.
Not even close.
No. If you were trying to sell me something, you could have probably sold me a lot more, but but it was an interesting, again, kind of bespoke solution to our weird little problem of being this blended family and, having parents and kids and all this stuff that I don't think we would have come up with on our own. But once we kind of sat down and talked about it, I'm like, oh, that actually makes all the sense in the world, including like how we're now paying for that insurance. I'm like, oh, we'll just do it this way. And like, great. Now it's just out there. It's never have to think about it.
That's right. And how much have we talked about investing?
Very little.
We aren't even to it yet. Right? Now, is there value in investing? Absolutely. Is there a lot of work that has to be done in investing? Yeah. Right? So is the cost worth it? Everyone has to decide for themselves. But all these things we just talked about, if that's important to you, then I think the cost will be more than worth it.
Yeah.
Because then we get to the next step of investing, right? So I can go to Vanguard, buy a nice S&P 500 fund. It's super low cost, right? And I can do better than I can do just as good as the market. Why wouldn't I do that?
Why wouldn't I?
Exactly. That's a great question. So what are your goals? What are your priorities, right? What are we actually trying to attain here? Because I always tell people it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Right.
So if you do that, and we just talked about some crazy things going on, the war, et cetera, all these things happen every year.
Yeah.
There's always something. And the phrase, this time it's different, is always on people's lips. Okay.
No, but this time, Roy,
But this time it's different. So when you do that, it's not a problem making good money. It's a problem of keeping that good money because you see fluctuations, you see down numbers, you panic. I can't lose it all.
Right.
You're emotional. What have I told you multiple times? I run my own financial decisions through another advisor because I'm emotional about my own money.
Right.
I'm not emotional about your money though, right? I'm impartial.
Right.
So, but I'm emotional about my own even. So would I make a bad mistake? Maybe if I'm being emotional because of something's happening in my life, or, you lose someone, right? You're emotional and you make rash decisions in those situations. We want to help people through that. So that emotion is really probably the biggest, or the behavior around it is probably the biggest detriment to anybody investing.
Right.
Can you make a lot of money? Yeah. Can you keep that money?
Right.
Maybe.
Well, because I mean, most of the time when I think people talk to you, it's for things like retirement. It's for things for, things like that are a longer term.
Yep.
And it's hard to not get distracted by the shorter term stuff.
Yep.
I was meeting with a guy who from a company called Westpath. They manage all the clergy benefit stuff. And I was like, can you give me an option where when I log into the dashboard, it doesn't immediately show me the balance and the change in the last 6 months in the balance of my account? Because I really don't care. And I don't want to see it that often.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I'm not going to do anything with that information, right? Yep. Like, I'm just like, I'm not going to change anything. It's just, and then it's just in there and it bugs me. And he's like, that's a really good idea. And I'm like, I mean, some people want to see it all the time. That's fine. I don't. Like, because I know it's invested. I know it's invested well. You guys have, billions of dollars under management that, and I'm not, I'm years away from needing it. So, keeping that kind of long-term focus on it, I think is working with somebody like you is really helpful, because they can just, you can remind us, like, remember your goals are 5 and 10 year and 20-year goals, not next Tuesday goals. Yep. So, maybe it's okay.
Well, and when you get into different phases of life too, you feel differently. So when you're going from a paycheck to a non-paycheck, highly emotional time period. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I've always had a paycheck. I've been working since I was 15 for a lot of these folks at this, at this current retirement age today. And when I actually walk them through a process of how we can make sure that they're going to be okay, it's just like relief.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, oh, I feel so much better. Thank you. Like, what is that worth?
Right.
What is the cost of that relief worth?
Right. A lot.
It's worth a lot. But before we move on from the investment side and the risk piece, it's like, we talked about, we have a risk episode too, but it's like when you ask somebody, like, what is a non-correlated asset in the investment world? Well, I'm just going to buy the S&P 500. Oh, so you're going to have 7 of your positions within that holding be the drivers of your return, because that's what's happened. Right. The Magnificent Seven is what they call them.
Yeah.
They've driven the return on the S&P 500 for the last few years.
Yeah.
Now, they're going to continue
so much bigger than everybody
They're going to continue to do that until they don't.
Right.
It's how it works, right? It's always like, well, here's the pattern, and it's going to continue like that until it doesn't. At someday that pattern breaks, right?
Right.
So when I invest people, I'm like, hey, we can have some exposure to that, but I also have you exposed in different ways, in different categories, and different size of companies, international, right? If they have lower risk, even maybe add in some interest-paying investments like bonds or other things, right, that exist in the world today. Like they have buffered investments now, which we've never talked about, which we should do someday.
Oh, all right.
That'd be a fun episode. But how do you start if you don't know what you're doing?
Right.
So what's the value there?
Right. Well, see, the thing is, you end up either you end up making the default choice, which may or may not be the right choice, which is you get a Vanguard index fund or whatever, and because the fees look low and that's great and the return looks good enough, right? And then you kind of do that and then you kind of forget about it, or you're having to do a lot more time, a lot more research, all on your own, spending your time and energy. And honestly, my time and energy is worth something. The fact
Your
that
time is money.
My and everybody's is like, and that's the thing you got to value is your own time too around some of these things. And if working with you, not only I get much better quality, I think in my financial planning world, but it's also I think I get it done quicker. Because I'm not having to do the heavy lifting of going and research this, research that. What happened with this thing over here, and all of that. I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yep. Well, and it's really one of those things too, because I go through, you know me.
I do.
My clients are required to have an annual review with me.
I know.
And we at least touch base. And as part of that, I spend a lot of time on the planning aspect. I will tell you, I spend probably less than 5 minutes on investing.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go deep, I always offer it.
Sure.
But I don't require it. And I don't want to bore them either if they don't want to hear it.
Right.
They're like, well, I trust you, Roy. Just keep doing a good job for me and treat me like your mom and dad. Right? That's what I get a lot. I'm like, okay, got it, check. But, a reminder, my partner is a CFA,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he's really good with investments,
Right.
and we can break anything down.
Right.
As granular as we need to go, right? So if I have that super, granular engineer type person that needs that, we can provide it. But the reality is, after a while, even those people are like, I know you're good, man. Just keep taking care of me. Like
Right.
you've explained to me how you do things, and I understand it, and I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear it every day or every time we meet and break it down and know why I bought this investment on this day or whatever.
Right.
So it's really interesting how that works. But we have it, we can do it. But people just start to not care about it because, like you just said, my time's valuable.
It is.
I hire you to be a professional. You vet me to a point, of course, until you have trust in me, and that trust continues to build because I do what I say I'm going to do, which is me focusing on the relationship, right? And that allows you to feel much more comfortable. And when something crazy in your life happens, you're going to have someone that you trust to be able to help you.
Yeah. Well, and I think you said it right there. I mean, it comes down to the relationship, and over time, through those annual reviews and everything, and you can see everything. You're like, okay, well, I do trust the decisions you make, on my behalf around the investments and where they're going and everything. And I'm not an expert in that, and I don't honestly want to become one.
Yeah.
I have other things to do with my time. So, but I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest value that working with somebody, with you or somebody like you, is exactly, it's that relational piece. I feel like you understand me and my goals, and you're helping me build a plan to get where we want to go.
Yep.
And that is great. And it's nice to know, it's like, as long as we just keep doing what we're doing, don't deviate too far.
Yep.
Then,
It's always interesting because after you work with someone for a few years, right? The heavy lift with anybody is really the first year typically.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of getting everything cleared up and understood and pulled apart and like prioritized and categorized. And then from there, we have the plan, and then we start working the plan. So for a lot of my clients now, when we're talking about their priorities, they're like, I don't know, Roy, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that just means we need to continue to work the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we reinforce that we're not going to be emotional about our money, right? You got to let me know if things change in your life, et cetera, so that I can help them when they need the help. But there's not a lot that has to be done once you start to kind of get that plan in place, let it do its thing, let it breathe, let it cook, right? Yeah. If you're in the accumulation phase, or if we're taking distributions, right? We're having conversations about the tax efficiency of that, the tax plan, how do we make sure that we're maximizing the distribution in the tax bracket we're in, or whatever it is. That gives just peace of mind, because you're like, oh, I didn't think of doing that. Well, yeah, because that's why I do this every day with everybody that I work with who's taking money. Right. So we want to make sure that we're being smart about that stuff. Yeah. So relationships matter. Yeah. And the cost that we charge, I think, is completely worth it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's just, I mean, in all aspects of life, they're working with somebody with professional expertise in a particular area, it's going to cost you a little something, right? Because that time, your material and your expertise is valuable. And I think, I feel like, the value that I have received from working with you far outweighs, I'm sure what little bit I paid. So if you've ever wondered, why it is that, you might want to work with somebody, or just work with Roy, but with somebody like Roy, and whether or not that's worth it, hopefully this has helped people understand that a little better.
I do too.
All right.
It's really important. Relationships matter, everybody.
They do. So if you or somebody you know is looking to maybe think about getting into some more serious financial planning work, maybe share this episode with them and help them understand why they might want to find their own amazing professional, or just this one sitting here right next to me.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Roy.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Credentialed Wealth Advisors is a Securities and Exchange Commission registered investment advisor. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer for investment advice or the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. All investments involve risk, including the potential loss of principal. Before implementing any strategy discussed, individuals should consult with a qualified financial, tax, or legal professional. While the data presented is sourced from materials believed to be reliable, its completeness and accuracy cannot be guaranteed.